Today's a day off from a mission. According to Watchtower Protocol, every few missions or so, the team will be given a free day. So today, we didn't have any life-threatening situations. Actually, maybe we did. Just me and Canopy though. I think the two of us are in big danger. I'll explain that in a moment. In the morning, we travelled to a nearby airport to pick up Grayson Stone, our 5th person in the team. He was tired, having flown from across the world, and so we didn't see much of him today. He had returned from teaching his various disciples and returned with information about myths and legends, as well as gifts for the team. Being an off day, the team set off to disappear and have some recreational time. Quint, our doctor, disappeared with Cossie, taking our 1 working van, we have 2, and set off to the city nearby. I was just about to leave with them when Canopy called me over the intercom to get to the Lighthouse basement. So off I went, walking across a small stretch of beach to our lighthouse. It wasn't a working lighthouse, and it had been long abandoned. The lighthouse was supposed to work, as a port was supposed to be built there to support the growing city near it, but the owners were revealed to be scam artists, and the project was closed. The lighthouse was the only thing that was finished. When the team of Watchtower 7C first moved to our little house near the lighthouse, we all took an interest in it, especially Cassie and Grayson. Of course, I wasn't there at the time, but Quint told me the story of how the two of them fixed it up and made it a wonderful addition to our home over dinner once. In the lighthouse, we kept our files. Files upon files of missions, data and photographs. What we didn't know, however, was that there was a secret basement to the lighthouse. This, apparently, used to be someone's home, as Quint said that clothes and a bed were found, as well as wrappers of food. We couldn't find out who, but we all agreed it was probably a criminal on the run, or a homeless person. I soon found myself in the basement, where Canopy awaited. Bookshelves of files and data were in it, and in a corner was a computer and some chairs, where Canopy was sitting in one. He had some sort of digitalized case file up, showing on the screen. I figured he'd be showing me a file. His job, after all, was digitizing the files and keeping things in order. "What's up?" I greeted, extending a hand. I fumbled, suddenly realizing my hand was stuck in the folds of my blue hoodie. Canopy laughed, but then became still, returning to seriousness. "I have something to show you." "What?" "Take a seat," Canopy suggested. "This might be long." I did. "So, what's that on the screen?" "So, we've encountered those mannequins, right?" "Right. And I've told you about some stories involving mannequins where the Watchtower investigated." "Yeah, so?" I replied, confused. "Well," Canopy began, "I'd like to show you something strange." "What?" "Have you heard of the mannequin disappearances?" "No," I responded. "What are they?" "You wouldn't know. This has been kept quiet for a reason, but I'll tell you." And so he did. And what he told me sent chills up my spine. The mannequin disappearances started a decade or 2 ago in a small town called New Varela, which was up in some obscure mountain. Over the course of a week in early June, mannequins from a store mysteriously vanished until none remained. Of course, people thought this was some silly prank, but soon, strange things began to happen. People started to complain that they were seeing figures in the forest surrounding the town, figures that, some say, were mannequins. But nobody truly got a good look at whatever was in the forest. Next, people began to have these dreams, where they were stuck in a coffin. Sometimes, the coffin's lid would be open, and other times not. But the people whose dream coffins were open reported seeing figures, pale, naked people around them, always in the corner of their eyes. They described them as solid, yet not living. Like plastic. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? After that, nothing happened in the town of New Varela. But it wasn't over. In the nearby town of Fort Deluge, something had happened. A man had stopped reporting to work for a few days, and the company he worked for contacted the police to check up on him. However, they found the door to his house open just a crack, so small that it was almost invisible to the naked eye. But still, it was open, and the police began to suspect something was amiss. They cautiously entered and searched the house. And then they found it. What looked to be a corpse underneath the man's bed. I pointed out that in our last mission, something was underneath a child's bed. Canopy agreed it was eerie. The police called for backup, but then they soon realised that it wasn't a corpse on there, rather a mannequin with some clothes and a wig. But the detail that chilled me the most was that when they examined the mannequin, they found that it had been stabbed 17 times, with a knife still embedded in its stomach. Initially, they thought it was some sort of sick prank, and I, personally, would have thought the same. Hell, I would have assumed the man just wanted to quit his job dramatically. Just a week later, a local fisherman saw a body floating in the water, and the authorities were soon on the scene. There, they found a corpse that had been stabbed 17 times. They couldn't identify the body, but not because it had been rotting in a lake for a week, but because its fingerprints were gone, replaced by smooth skin. The face of the corpse was smooth, not cut off, but just simply gone. There was no trace of hair on the body, leaving the head bald and shiny. There was no blood either. Instead, this strange goo that appeared to be holding the corpse together. They would have thought it was a prank, except for the fact that a tag that belonged to the company the man was in his pocket, unused and clean. The police, Canopy explained, kept it all quiet as to not cause suspicion. I thought it was over, and was about to ask him a question when he continued. Apparently, this was only the first of strange events. States away, somewhere in Texas, the exact same thing happened, except this time to a couple camping out in the forest. Mannequins resembling the two of them were found cut up and strewn around a campsite. And a week after that, their limbs were found just outside town. By then, however, DNA testing was in place, and based on the skin of the mannequin-like limbs, it was established that these indeed were the remains of the couple that had gone missing in the woods. Why would anyone do this? I exclaimed, horrified at what Canopy had explained. Just, why? There's more, he said, scrolling and clicking a file he had bookmarked. He then proceeded to tell me that over the 2 decades that had passed, 1,238 events similar had happened all over the globe. The reason nobody knew any of this was the real details, such as the unidentifiable substance keeping a corpse together, and the mannequins resembling their actual deaths were never released to the public in an effort to try to keep everyone calm. Further, the murders were happening countries far apart, and only recently had the Watchtower noticed a connection. And that's it, Canopy finished. Before I could say anything, let alone think, we both heard our company phone's buzz. We both checked it, and it told us motion was detected outside the house. Cassie and Quint were probably back, or so we thought. But as we neared the house, we realised they weren't. The van wasn't at its usual place, and we realised they wouldn't be back after just an hour in the city. We both knew Cassie would be spending lots of time trying to get a date and somehow failing, and Quint would definitely be losing track of time at the library, where he volunteered. "Look!" I yelled, pointing at a small package neatly placed on our welcome mat. It was a light cardboard box with our names written in messy handwriting. Whoever had written it had written Canopy's last name wrong, spelling Hydrangea instead of hydrangea. Canopy inspected the box, while I made sure the door was locked. I opened the door with my key and the two of us entered. Inside, we checked the camera feed. We both noticed that when we were inside the lighthouse, the camera feed had mysteriously turned off, only turning on just as we got to the front porch. "I think we should open the box," Canopy suggested.
It should be safe.
Let's do it. But then, we both noticed the sound of my personal laptop boot up. I had powered it off and left it in our TV room yesterday, and there was no reason it should be booting up on its own. We both ran over to the TV room, where we saw my laptop screen active. It was showing us a website, one that I had never seen before. The website was loading, a small circle chasing itself. I tried to close it, or at least switch to a different tab. I frowned. It didn't work. The screen was stuck on loading. Canopy, meanwhile, set about finding a box cutter to open the package. When he got back, the screen had finished loading. The first thing we saw were dates and times, with blank rectangles of space beneath them. Then, the site sort of shook, like it was alive, and then these pictures started loading. It was a dinner table with 5 people sitting around it. The other pictures showed the same table, just the people in different positions. In every picture, the people were all facing away from the camera.
Oh my god!
Canopy exclaimed, shock in his voice. What is it? And then I noticed it too. The skin was too shiny, reflecting the light from the ceiling. I realised that they weren't people at all, but mannequins, and I knew what that dinner table meant. And suddenly everything came crashing down all at once. I ran to our house's dinner table. They were exactly the same. The mannequins, the 5 of them, were supposed to be the team. Even the clothes they were wearing were ours. I noticed that the one that was supposed to be me was wearing a dark green shirt I thought I had lost. But what was worse was the contents of the box we had found. Inside, we found pictures of us. Pictures that we never could have taken. Impossible pictures that couldn't have been taken. There was one of me and Canopy in the Lighthouse basement, and the timestamp told us it was mere minutes ago, when we were just there. Another was a photo of us looking at the pictures we were looking at now. Another was of Cassie and Quint in the van. Canopy yelped when he saw the last picture. It was a picture of him and a girl, but the timestamp was dated the exact moment he found it.
That's my twin sister, he exclaimed, scared.
What?
Text Cassie and Quint to see if anything happened to them.
I did so, and they told me what they were up to. Cassie was in a bar trying to get the attention of some girl, and Quint was flirting with a guy he had struck up a conversation with in the library.
Are they safe?
Canopy questioned, saying the words faster than I'd ever heard him speak. Yes, what about... He shushed me as his call was picked up.
Artemia, he called. It's me, Canopy.
A pause.
What do you mean? Hold on, I'm putting you on speaker.
Who am I talking to? A voice from the other end spoke. A woman's. Canopy's sister, Artemia. I'm Rainey. Canopy's making sure you're all right. That can't be, Artemia protested. He's been in my house for the past hour. He stopped by on his day off to catch up on our jobs.
No, I've been in the Watchtower 7C house this entire day,
Canopy revealed.
I don't know who's with you, Artemia, but it isn't me.
And how do I know you're the real Canopy?
Look, what's the shirt he's wearing? The other me.
A sweater. With a dinosaur. Wait, didn't you lose this one when we were in college?
Exactly,
Canopy informed.
You accidentally threw it in the paper shredder and started a fire.
So you're Canopy. Tell me something else.
When we were kids, you ran away from home and somehow made it 3 states away.
Okay, good. Now who the hell is sitting in my living room, waiting for me? Artemia questioned.
I don't know. But get out of there, now!
Canopy shrieked. I then saw something, out of the corner of my eye. I looked through a window facing the forest behind our house. Canopy, I tugged. Look.
What?
He turned to see what I saw. In the forest, from our beach house separating the woods from the sea, we saw 2 people staring at us through a window they could not have possibly seen through. The clothes they were wearing had holes all over them, like the rags holding a scarecrow together. They were wearing these horrible masks so strange they chilled me to the core. They weren't decorated, in fact. The opposite. These were oval slabs of dark brown stone, with 2 holes carved to resemble eyes, 2 smaller ones for a nose, and this ugly, stretched smile that was carved. But I think the scariest detail of all was the fact that behind these holes was nothing. Just a sea of endless black. We watched them tilt their heads in unison, then turn around, revealing that on the backs of their heads, if it was the back of their heads, was a mask exactly the same as on their front. We watched the 2 walk calmly into the woods until we couldn't see them anymore. "Canopy," the voice of Artemia said. "The other you, he's gone. The backyard door was open and I saw him just walk into the woods." We just saw 2 people walk into the woods," Canopy told. What the hell just happened?" I murmured.